but the Brits have had to actually implement a whole range of new legislation because they previously
They
relied
did.
upon EU stuff.
They
So,
did. They did.
and I remember being involved in Vietnam when they did the WTO. When they joined the WTO, they had to actually, part of the job was they had to accede to a WTO anti-dumping and countervailing. And basically, what they did, they just copied it out in China, in Vietnamese, and said at the end of the day, it's the minister who makes the decision. So it was about a 2-page document at the end of the day.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah,
it's a yeah. So each country does it differently. So what happens,
that's
and
right.
even with, look, for example, the Americans have public rulings, and the American rulings on goods, whether they're on their value or their classification, might come out entirely differently in Australia, and
Yes.
Australia might end up with a
In other
different
words, a different harmonised code. Yeah.
or a different approach to valuation. I did some work for
Yes.
a Japanese multinational selling sport shoes, and they had different outcomes in Australia for their things like royalties and license payments and R&D payments. They had different outcomes in Australia to New Zealand because our legislation was different, even though we both came from the same international starting point.
Yes.
So you get similar goods might be classified differently in different countries because they have a different harmonized system or they have a different interpretation.